LLAMA 3.1 dropped this week, and as someone who codes AI projects for clients, I'm gonna give my personal take on how I think about the model and the stuff from there. So here, I'm going through the article that LLAMA released about LLAMA 3.1. So they've released 3 models, and they've made the context window 128K. So one thing I would say is always make sure you actually test it out. Don't believe when they say they've extended it. So I'm going to test that out today. This is good news for everyone, because if it can actually do 120K, then that matches OpenAI's one, and it helps the open source community a lot more, right? Because now, like, a lot of workarounds we had to do before was needed because we only had a smaller context window. Now with this, we can do a lot more. Like, we can feed a whole code base into this and it should work. So that's good news. They have this model evaluation where they go over each of these stats and saying that it is better than the other ones. The thing is, for these stats, I don't ever trust it because sometimes they train the questions in the database of the model. So basically they have the answers. So I'll do my own personal test and I'll show it later. This is okay. And then for the mock trick, they said they're not using a mixture of experts. So that's very interesting, that if this works, then it's like, then that means this is an inferior strategy. And they are right. If it can just be like this, then it's way easier to scale. You can just keep replicating the model moving forward. And then I think, like I said, Meta did a good job with releasing this. So I'm going to test out the models now. So now I'm going to test out LLAMA 3.1 8B, where I have more personalized questions that I've created, where it's tied to real life examples that you will use on a day-to-day basis as an app developer. So let's go from there. So for speed reasons, I'm going to start with using Grok. So Grok 8B instant. Okay, so we're gonna go here. We're gonna start with the first one. Something simple. Write me a script that will print 1 to 100 for a Fibonacci sequence and print even odd before text. So that's pretty good. We could do a basic 0. Now I'm going to ask this question. So basically, write me a finite state machine to encapsulate logic of Tower of Hanoi's game in Node.js. So what this is basically, Hanoi game is a typical old-fashioned logic game, and it needs to have very good understanding of the game, and to write it into a finite state machine is a typical algorithm in software development. So let's see how I can do it. So this is pretty good. Like, it puts the initial states and it puts the transition states, and then it gives you the code to basically solve this problem. So this is pretty impressive. It can actually understand logic to a deep level. Now I'm going to tell it to write a poem. So now I'm going to tell it to write me a haiku poem about the seasons: winter, fall, summer, spring, where each line begins with the season's first letter. So this basically will help us know if it can follow instructions that are more specific. So winter's gentle hush, fall. So winter, fall, summer thing. So it follows the instructions pretty well. And if you notice, I think LLAMA 3.1 is very precise. It just gives you the answer. It doesn't give you a lot of fluff answers on top of it, which is very good. Now this is the next real test. So basically here, so the idea is here is, I want to test this context window out. So basically, I gave it a story. This story is about 2,000 context window, and I put the password in the middle here, right here. I put the password right here, and I want to see if the AI can actually find the password in the middle of this text. So let's press enter, and there you go. It found the password. So that it works with 2,000 context window. So now let's do a bigger one. Let's do 4,000 context window. So here, it also found the password here as well. Right there, right? So that's good. Now let's try a bigger context window. Let's try 8,000. I'm gonna do 8,000 now. And there we go. It found the password again. And now let's try 16,000. For some reason, it can't find the password. Let's try again. This is interesting that it couldn't find the password. It couldn't find the password in 16,000 words, which is very bizarre to me. Like, I would assume that it would be able to find it. Okay, so it did found it. So I think it's just a scenario where it just gave the wrong answer. So okay, it did 16,000. Now I'm gonna do 32,000 context window. So I got the answer, but it's interesting. I think it gave a more not as specific answer here. So it can at least do 32,000 context window, but it's interesting. So it's not always accurate. Like, sometimes it gets it and sometimes it doesn't get it. So this is not something I would expect, but this is one of the flaws that I'm noticing. And then here, okay, so this is basically, the question is, it gives 4 tier of a specific logic, and it needs to do some calculations to figure it out, and it's able to do multi-levels of logic. Okay, now I want it to role play. So basically I want it to pretend to be a 5-year-old boy and in a very scared state, and then write an email to CEO. And this was pretty good. So like it can role play pretty well. And now I'm going to give it another scenario where basically I will give a sales transcript, and I want to know what is the requirements in bullet point form. So here are the requirements: build chatbot and compliance, editing. So this is pretty good. It's pretty precise. Okay, and then now I want to ask it to do some complex reasoning. So this one is basically I want them to explain stuff step by step for like 3 very complex topics: common sense, game theory, and epigenetics. So I want to see like how good it is at explaining stuff and connecting the dots. So here it explains the common sense reasoning, the game theory, it explains this specifically, and then it explains the comparison between the 3 fields. So it's pretty good at explaining stuff as well. Now, a lot of the LLMs have a problem where basically if you ask them to give an answer and you want it more specific, like I only want 1-word answer, it sucks at it. So let's see how well it's at doing this. Oh, so that's pretty good. So it can't give you a 1-word answer, which is what I expect, instead of giving you all this extra text. So for overall, from testing LLAMA 3.1b, the answers are very good. I just noticed that if you use a lot of context window, like 32,000, it gives the answers not as consistently. So that's something to be aware of. So now let's test 70B and see how it performs. Okay, so we'll start from the back again. So 1-word answers: Ottawa, that's correct. Okay, see this is common sense, game theory, anything. So the answer is about the same for both, so that's fine. Now let's do the sales transcript. So if you notice that the answers from 70B was way more detailed. It broke down the overview, the key features, use cases. So this is actually a lot better than the 8B one. Okay, now let's try the role playing. So this is very interesting. Like in the last one, they used more scenarios based for the but this one's like really trying to act it out, right? It's like making up words now, and this sounds more real than the other one. So that's very interesting that it's better at role playing. Okay, now let's do the multi-level complex logic. So this one gave a lot more detail. I think LLAMA 3.1 70B thinks more and gives better answers. Okay, now let's go through the context window. So let's see if it actually performs better than its counterpart. So this is the third 2000 context window. So that's interesting. I got the answer on the right track. Let's try it again. So yeah, so I got the answer correct. So it sounds like 70B one is part better at giving more consistent answers as well. Now let's go try 16. So I got the answer as well. It looks like it added more information for no reason. Let's try again. So yeah, it gave the answer. So we still see inklings of it like not giving the right answer both times. So that's something to be aware of. Now let's go back. So let's start to write a haiku poem. So looks like it's doing it correctly again. That's good. And then let's start to write a finite state machine. So it's interesting, like they changed the way that they're implementing it. In the last one, they were almost like more class-based, and now this time it's more objects and transitions. So I think that's a pretty big difference between the two. And then let's go back to the simplest example here. So that's the same answer. So overall, I think 70B is way smarter at giving more detailed answers, and it's more consistent than the 8B one. And the speed for this is about the same for both. So I would say it's like, if you want more detailed answers, then it's better to use 70B, and 8B is okay. I think if you want to have more consistency, then I would not use 8B. So that's a breakdown of LLAMA 3.1 so far, and I think this is a very big change and good for the community because now we have more options, and let's see where meta takes from here.